Hello, everyone. Hope you've been enjoying the day so far. For those who don't know me, I'm Reem, Senior Partnerships Manager at Horatio. And with me, I have Carolina, who is our partnership specialist. With us today, we have Aircall's wonderful partnerships team. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what Aircall is and its benefits. Give it to you, Frank.
Hey everyone, my name is Katie Bentz. I'm a channel partnerships manager at Aircall. I've been there almost 2 years now and working with the awesome Horatio team since I started, and I just adore them. So yeah, really happy to be here.
Finally got to meet.
Yeah, it's been almost 2 years in the making for Ruben and I to meet.
Frank Antonucci. I head up the channel partnerships team in North America at Aircall. I joined Aircall about 7 or 8 months ago at this point. I've been in partnerships for close to 15 years, about a decade at HubSpot before joining Aircall. And at a very high level, just to give you kind of an intro to Aircall, we're a phone and communication platform, entirely cloud-based. The real big differentiators out there for Aircall compared to other systems out there is the ease of use. You can get in there and manage everything. If you're head of support, head of sales, you don't need to make project requests, spend more money, spend more time. You can really go in there and manage everything yourself. The integrations are another big part of the differentiator with Aircall. And when I say integrations, it's not a sales answer of, yes, we integrate with them, and then in an asterisk, 4 months later and 20 grand later, like we integrate with them. It's truly out of the box integration. The primary ones we see are help desks like Gorgeous, Zendesk, e-commerce systems like Shopify, Magento, and CRMs like HubSpot and Salesforce. But we have 100+ integrations that are true integrations, pre-built, out of the box. Certainly you have the ability to customize, but true integrations. And I'll let Katie add a little more commentary there.
Yes, and I always love this stat because it's so random, but our average amount of integrations per customer is 1.5. So however that is calculated, almost every customer is using at least one integration. So definitely making the product working better with all of their systems. But Aircall is a phone app. It's made up of multiple different parts. So you obviously have the phone, which is where you're going to make and receive the phone calls. You have the dashboard that includes all of your analytics, our new AI add-on, as well as a browser extension so you can upload lists, call out a lot faster than doing it one by one. You can also use it on mobile, so there's lots of moving parts, and we really are trying to make it a whole communications platform by also working with lots of our partners.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for you guys. I'll start with you, Katie. How can brands make voice support more efficient and responsive?
Yeah, so number one tip is definitely all about how your call distribution is set up. So when someone calls in, what does that experience look like? So my first tip would be implementing an IVR system. So that is an interactive voice response. So you have all probably heard one. It's, press 1 for this department, press 2 for this. But it's going to allow you to really tailor those prompts to the customer experience, to your brand, and make sure that they end up getting in touch with the right person right away so that they're not waiting on hold, being transferred a million different times. So making sure that that's very specific to your needs, and you can set up multiple of those. So you may have one that's, language specific if you're a global company. So press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish, and then once they press that button, it would take them to the department IVR. So you can make that really easy to get them connected to the right person. Secondly, I would say integrating your system with your CRM and help desk. It's going to allow you to really personalize that customer information on calls because it's going to be at your fingertips. You're not going to have to toggle between applications because it's going to show you right away, oh, this is their most recent Shopify order, this is their lifetime spend, and you have that information so you can really make them feel like you know them as a customer. Lastly, using voice AI features. So AI has obviously been a really hot topic the last year or so. We recently came out with an add-on with AI features, including call summaries, talk ratios, key topics that were talked about in those calls. And so actually leveraging those features to be able to do more call coaching and making sure that you're identifying any areas of improvement and looking for like common trends that you're hearing amongst customers can be really impactful.
Thank you, Katie. This one's for you, Frank. Why is a cloud-based solution ideal for an industry with seasonal fluctuations in staffing and call volume?
One of the big obvious ones is just cost effectiveness. I mean, if you're using an on-premise infrastructure, there's maintenance, there's a ton of fees. If we are adding new agents, there's going to be a lot of investment required to make these adjustments. You're also missing out on the opportunities when the amount of time is passing to make those adjustments. You're not very agile if we're not using a cloud-based system. So Aircall, again, we can go in, add new team members, add new phone numbers, and actually I say we can. The even bigger benefit, as I touched on earlier, is you as the user can easily go in there and do it. It's not overly complicated. Again, very straightforward. So that's a big one right off the bat. Flexibility overall, just from your IVRs, adjusting those IVRs for new promotions, seasonal campaigns, call routing. So again, if we're adding new team members, we're adding new numbers, we have to go in there and adjust the call routing structure. And again, that's something that can be done very quickly. There's no downtime. We're not missing out on those opportunities because we are now very agile because of a cloud-based system. One of the other big ones now is just the environment that we're seeing with remote work staff. This is no longer now something, if you're adding staff, those staff members have to be tied to a desk and a hard phone. Anywhere that they have an internet connection, they can be productive. There's even a mobile app that you can use if need be. You can go ahead and still be productive even without your laptop. The integrations are a big one as well. As I touched on earlier, that's a big part of the differentiator with Aircall. But having those integrations in place, if we're adding new staff, it's not just about adding new staff or adding new agents, but they need to be good. They need to be productive. So having that information historically from your CRM, from your help desk, available for those folks when they pick up the phone is going to make their overall performance a lot better. And lastly, I would say the analytics. Going into, again, I'm sure all of you, it's very obvious, Black Friday, holidays, there's certain times of the year that, seasonality, there's going to be much higher activity. But with proper analytics, you can also identify different micro trends. Maybe there's a certain time of the summer or time of the week where your call volume's higher. Let's identify those, get ahead of it, make sure that somebody, when they call in, the wait time isn't getting out of control. They're getting to the right person at the right time. You can also use the analytics to gauge overall agent performance. Again, if we're adding new folks, are they doing a good job? We need to be able to see that. You can just use hire Horatio, not worry about that at all. But if you want to dig into it, then the analytics will provide that to you.
Yeah, and building off of that, I think the remote accessibility for anyone who's obviously working with Hire Horatio is so important because you want to be able to use this phone system in your offices across the US, wherever you may be, as well as obviously having agents who are in different countries being able to all use the same platform. So that's going to be a lot harder to do with a hard desk phone. We call a hard phone a desk phone that is literally on your desk that you pick up and hold versus a cloud-based phone app that you're literally using on your computer or your mobile device. So that to me is like a really big benefit for anyone who is going to be working with outsourced agents.
Awesome. Thank you both. Well, last but not least, Katie, what are the most common mistakes growing businesses make when implementing voice support?
Yeah, so I think a big one is neglecting customer feedback when it comes to your phone support. I think a lot of people obviously care about customer feedback, but really using that to support their voice strategy. Aircall is going to provide you with the tools to be able to actually analyze what your call history, your wait times are, how long it's taking to get to those resolutions, and being able to use that data to really drive business decisions. We recently came out with a post-call surveys add-on where you can have a survey automatically get sent out after that support call, so you can get like star ratings, NPS scores, use all of that data to really make decisions. And so I think adding on to that, like it's just something that is being underutilized. Also, just automation features in general, right? Everyone has a lot of things to do in the day, and the last thing that people want to do is manual data entry, myself included. So being able to have those call recordings directly sync into your help desks, your CRM, it's going to save a lot of that busy work and allow agents to really focus on what matters, which is having those conversations and coming to those resolutions. So definitely like having that all of your tools connect is so important. Also considering scalability, a lot of times we see people where they're a smaller company, they don't want to make too many investments into their technology right at the beginning, but then they run into bottlenecks down the road when they do start to scale and they have to revamp their entire systems. Implementation for a lot of different tech can take a long time. Luckily with Aircall it doesn't, but it is something that I think you should think about right at the beginning. And then also that call queue management, so who is the phone ringing to, making sure it's easy. We provide stats to show you why calls are being missed, and one of the big ones that comes up is that your IVR is maybe too complex, so consider simplifying it. Don't have as many steps for it to take for them to get to a real human. And then, of course, training opportunities. Luckily with Horatio, they're gonna take care of a lot of that with the agents, but definitely like digging into actual call recordings. I know for sales and support reps, like we love to say that we do all of this call coaching, but it takes a lot of time. So leveraging that AI add-on that I talked about, where it's going to give you a call summary, it's going to give you a transcript, and pick 5 calls per week or whatever it may be to actually do that coaching, but save yourself the hours of work that it might take to listen to those calls live. Or you can do live call monitoring with Aircall as well. And then lastly, I know this morning we were talking a lot about SMS and how that is a really key driver for a lot of people with support. And so I think one mistake that I see a lot with the clients that I speak to is that you want to make sure that you have the same phone number for your SMS to your calling. So it's something that a lot of people overlook, and it's very frustrating as a consumer to be texting someone on support and then try to call that number and it doesn't exist for voice. So making sure that you're using systems that offer SMS and voice, or you're working with partners of SMS and voice so that you can have that number for both, I think is a really important tip as well.
Thank you. I have one last question for you guys. How has working with Horatio helped your clients?
Yeah, so I spoke earlier about that remote accessibility, but it's definitely so important when working with global teams to be able to access that system anywhere with an internet connection. And also because the Horatio team is familiar with Aircall, it can lead to really quick implementation and getting started. So that's always a bonus as well. Of course, being able to have that analytics and reporting so that the Horatio team can be doing that quality assurance. It's really helpful when using the technology and just making sure that agents are familiar with the software, it integrates in the tools that they're using and your company is using, and being able to scale that we mentioned earlier. And as you add agents, you can easily add them to the platform. But overall, a phone system is truly only as powerful as the calls, as who's answering those calls. So you want to make sure that you have that solid software that has all of the bells and whistles that you may need. And then, of course, the best agents who can really handle those inquiries and questions and solve any issues that may come up. So overall, we just really appreciate working with you guys, and we trust them so much. And anytime someone is looking for a BPO, we are obviously very confident to recommend you. And so we just really appreciate that trust is built between knowing the services that you offer and the product that we are offering as well. It can work so hand in hand. So yeah, just really appreciate the whole Horatio team. And
it's an amazing benefit to be able to suggest to our customers and prospects, because the challenge of scaling out a team is immense. There's a reason we're sitting in this big, beautiful office right now. These guys figured that out a long time ago. It's very challenging. So it's great to have a trusted partner that there's no hesitation whatsoever of this is what you need, talk to these guys. So it's great.
We've been loving working with you guys so far. So
If anyone is interested in learning more about the Aircall product, and we have some awesome customers here today as well, so we appreciate you and thanks for trusting Aircall. But if you're interested, you can pull out your phone and scan this QR code. It will take you to a brief form, and then it will notify me that you're interested in learning more. So we can always reach out, set up a demo, answer any questions, and of course, you can also chat with your Hire Horatio CSM, and they can get you connected with us as well.
We have a couple of minutes left. Any questions for Katie and Frank?
Can always find a question. So we heard a couple of panelists earlier, specifically the e-commerce one, talk about when the right time to think about adding phone is. Can you just give a little bit more detail on kind of when in a company's life cycle they should think about phone, whether it's industries, obviously some of the more regulated industries need it earlier, but then you have the staffing consideration. So can you just kind of speak to some of those points around when some of the people in the room should start considering phone?
As early as possible, because as a consumer yourself, right, if there's not a phone number to contact a business, it's a pretty big red flag. So I think we see a lot of people start small. They literally have one company line. You can have a few users on that line available to take any calls. But even if you're not picking up those calls all the time, just the option of having a voicemail so that your customers feel like they're being heard, I think is really important. So, I mean, for myself personally as a consumer, I'm probably not gonna be purchasing from a business that doesn't have a presence like that. And I think it's just knowing that you can scale in the future.
No, I would definitely echo those thoughts of, I do think from a brand, overall brand standpoint, it is a pretty big red flag if I can't call and get a hold of somebody. And to Katie's point, if you have the right technology, setting up a true routing system, even with minimal staff, we can still escalate high priority customers at a minimum to make sure they can get somebody live on the phone, because it's something that comes up quite often on customer calls that we have or prospect calls that we have. A lot of e-commerce brands are not using voice, and it's usually from the cost restriction standpoint. But I think it really, again, as soon as possible that you can add that in, there's a major cost on the business you're losing from that impression you may be giving about your brand. I also think price point matters. You know what I mean? If I'm buying a $4 widget, maybe I'm not going to be too upset if I can't get somebody live. But I mean, if you're buying, if you're spending $100, $200 upwards, you should be able to talk to somebody if you have an issue.
Well,
Covered it all.
yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
everyone.